hey there internet people, and welcome back to Green Wing Gaming, or welcome if you're new. If this is your first time on the channel, this here is a Friday upload, and Fridays on this channel, we like to play tabletop games. So today we are actually finishing out the Burning Light mission pack for Rangers of Shadowdeep. For those of you who have been watching along, it's been a long road, but we're finally there. We finally got to the end of this massive mission pack. And this is actually the final scenario that you'll find in the core rulebook. So we're finally out of the rulebook, boys. We did it. But yeah, so I honestly haven't decided which of the mission packs we'll be doing next. I'm looking forward to continuing on with Rangers of Shadowdeep, but right now my brain's just a little frazzled getting to the end of all this, so that's what I'm trying to focus on. The dormitory scenario we did last week went extremely well. I don't think we even took any damage doing it, so we ended up gaining a new companion who is temporary. Will be going away at the end of the mission, but she's still just a free knight. She's meant to be like the warrior priestess of the ghost of a warrior priestess who serves the deity this convent our party has been exploring belongs to. That was a really long sentence. I apologize. But yeah, so we gained a new companion. We found some new trinkets. We didn't take any damage. But now we have arrived at the final showdown. We are at the end of the mission. There's no more delaying. We have to pick a spot. So, as I'm pretty sure I've made emphatically clear in the previous videos, which again, if you're new, all of these videos are in a playlist on the channel. If you would like to go back and watch the originals, you're more than welcome to do so. You're also more than welcome to stick around and enjoy the game, even if you don't have the context. Rangers of Shadowdeep is still a lot of fun, so I would ask you to hang around because you'll still have a pretty good time. But anyways, we have to select a room. I've made it pretty clear in the other videos. I'm like 99% sure that the relic we've been looking for is in the herb store room. Which at this point, it's been so long since we played that scenario. I wouldn't blame you if you forgot it. It was the one with all the living plants that were attacking us, that gave us like basically no XP. Because oddly enough, killing all those plants, not worth any points, which I'm still a little sore about, but whatever, we're gonna move on. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where the relic is, so I'm gonna have to consult the early pages of the mission pack, because that's where you have to go when you make your guess. But we'll deal with that in a second. Before we get too deep in today's scenario, I would just like to remind you guys that the channel is very young, very small, and pretty much the good thing about having a channel this small is like basically anything you guys do really genuinely helps the channel. Even just by clicking on the video, you've done me a huge solid, but if you would be so kind as to consider doing a little bit more, obviously the like button, the subscribe button hugely help me out. Really do a lot to grow the channel, but viewed hours is another really good metric that helps the channel start to break into the algorithm a little bit. So the farther into the video you watch, the more you're helping the channel. I get that these battle reports can be kind of long, so I don't blame you if you need to dip out. But I'm just saying, the longer you can stick around, the more I appreciate it. So thank you in advance. I also want to encourage you guys to leave comments down below. I don't actually know if that helps the channel at all, but I have just really enjoyed interacting with the comments with you guys. Maybe it's just tabletop fans are particularly agreeable, but I have yet to have a negative interaction in the comments. Swear to God, I have yet to encounter anyone even mildly unpleasant in the comments. It's not at all what I expected from a YouTube comment section. I was ready for like the most horrendous, like awful things to be said. No, you guys have been really chill, and I'm really glad about it. So yeah, responding to you guys' comments has been a lot of fun. But with all that being said, we're gonna hop into the last scenario. I've already got the table set up, so I've gotten a chance to look at the scenario, and I'm not sure how this one's gonna go. But let's go ahead and find out. So we're playing Rangers of Shadowdeep. We're doing the final showdown for Burning Light. So let's just get into it. Okay guys, so looking at the start of the scenario, or start of the mission pack, right here where we look at the ending the mission rules, like it's the mission rule here just says that the mission continues until the rangers have all been killed, you've explored all the locations, or you feel confident you know the location of the decanter. And after any scenario, you may start your final search for the decanter, provided you have played the scenario associated with the location you're searching. So, in other words, like, we're going to be guessing that the relic is in the herb store, but we can't make that guess until we've played the herb store scenario. No matter how much, like, there were other clues in other scenarios suggesting it was the herb store, you have to at least play the herb store before you can guess. You don't have to finish out all the scenarios, but you have to play the one where you're going to be guessing. So, over here, we are, like I said, we're guessing that the relic is hidden in the herb store, so we have to see note 533, which takes us over here. So note 533. You scour the place from top to bottom, and just as you are about to give up, you spot a strange fold in the dirt on the floor. Grabbing hold of this, you pull up a cloth covering and reveal a dark hole. There, shining at the bottom of the hole, is a silver decanter covered in beautiful flowing script. You have found what you are seeking. Knew it! I knew it! Guys, I'm so damn good at this game. I'm feeling pretty good about myself right now. Anyways, before you have any time to celebrate, however, you hear a horrible shriek and hear a coldness grip your heart. You must now play scenario I to see if you can escape with your prize. The decanter must be carried by a specific figure. If it does not take up an item slot, gain 100 XP. Bam, 100 XP, so right away, that's a level up. But, with that being said, we're going to hop on over to Scenario I, the final showdown. Alright, so here we go. As usual, we're going to start off with the quick lore dump of the scenario. So, regrouping after your search, you suddenly feel a crushing despair descend upon the convent. With a trembling horror, you realize that your time is up, and that your activities have been discovered. Grabbing up your equipment and all your finds... Sorry, camera unfocusing there. And all your finds, you race out to the courtyard. There, standing in the shadows of the gateway, is a giant demonic shape. Black wings stretch out from its back, and it stares at you with baleful eyes. Around the corners of the courtyard, gnolls take up fighting positions. It is time to decide. Do you make your stand here, or do you run and hope to lose them in the darkness of the Shadowdeep? Alright, so basically we have to choose between whether or not we want to throw down with these guys and let them know what's good, or do we just want to bolt for the exits and try to get out of here as quick as possible. My money is on run for it. I don't know what the scenario is going to look like in terms of like more enemies showing up, but I'm not seeing anything in here about like regenerating enemies or anything, so it's not looking too bad. Now, for those of you who we'll get into the setup in the next clip, but for right now, the plan is going to be to try and bolt for the exit. And yeah, with all that being said, I think this is going to make a little more sense if I show you guys the board, so we'll do that in just a sec. Okay, here we are with the scenario all set up. Just taking a quick note of this is literally, if this setup is looking a bit familiar, it's because it's literally the courtyard. The whole premise in the setup rules for the final showdown, it literally says just set up the board identical to scenario C, the courtyard. But this time, instead of setting up in front of the statue, we are set up behind the statue because we're not coming into the courtyard and clearing it out. We're coming back out to the courtyard from inside the convent. So here we have our heroes all within 3 inches of the entrance to the interior of the convent. And we have our buildings off to the side. What was supposed to be a fountain in the middle of the courtyard, I don't have a fountain to put there, so we just have like a statue with like a barricade in front of it, some hedgerow behind it. And then in the corners, in each corner, we have a gnoll fighter, a gnoll archer, and a wolf. Same over here. And then at the main entrance, we have what the game calls a terror wing. Now, if this model is looking familiar to any of you, or if the camera will focus, you might notice this being the Vargeist model from the Cursed City box. Which is fitting, because we also have Bryn here, is also from the Cursed City box, so the two of them are old buds. But yeah, so the Terror Wing is easily the most terrifying thing on this board, fittingly enough. Because literally, even to go into base contact with this guy, you have to pass a will check. I'll have to look. I'm gonna have to look back in the rules to see what the will check is, like what the target number for it is. But yeah, like you literally have to pass one of the harder stat checks in this game just to engage this guy. To say nothing of the fact that he's now surrounded by 6 other adversaries, so we're gonna have to see what I can do about all that. But with that being said, we've got the board all set up. This game scenario also works a little differently in that there are no Shadowdeep cards. Like the scenario specifically says you are not supposed to have any Shadowdeep cards. So you just have 8 red cards and no blacks. Please don't take that clip out of context, guys. But with that being said, we've got everything set up. I'm going to take a quick second to go scribble down the rules for this guy, because I've faced plenty of gnolls so far. I've got their stats pretty much memorized. Never fought a Terror Wing before, so I'm going to have to go write his stuff down. With all that being said, I will see you guys at the start of the next turn. Alright, here we are at the start of turn 1, guys. And one thing I also should have mentioned is that there's 2 different ways for us to win this scenario. The first being to just kill everything on the table and stick around until the end of the scenario. The other way is for us to get off the board through one of 3 exits. So the main exit is pretty obviously the one guarded by the Terror Wing. But in each of the corners where we have our gnolls and wolves, those are also exits, as per the original rules of the mission when we first started playing. Because technically speaking, we started off doing the gatehouse scenario, which is like where that main door goes through would be us going back out the way we came. However, the rules of this mission say we could have just come in through like that gap in the walls and gone straight to scenario C, the courtyard. And then over here is like the entrance to the chapel, where we could have played scenario B, the chapel, and then gone straight to C. So basically the 3 ways you could have entered are also the 3 ways that you can leave. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and hop right into the Ranger phase. And we're going to start off group activating with Twyin. It's kind of hard to know who he's going to group activate with. I think what we're going to do is we're going to group activate with Bryn and with Archibald. Simply for the reasons that, like, that's not usually who I would group activate with, except that those are the ones that let him put ranged firepower downrange. Sorry, I got to back up for a second to get my tape measure. But yeah, so we're going to start off activating with Twyin. Technically, we have to do everyone's first actions before we do second actions, but Twyin is literally just going to move. He's just going to make a double move and get headed up the board because he's a sword guy. He doesn't really do the whole sit back and wait thing. So that's going to be his turn done. Archibald here, however, is going to start things off spicy. He does have line of sight over to this corner of the board, so we're just going to start him off with a fireball spell. For those of you who don't remember, for a fireball spell, you literally just pick a point. So we're going to pick that point right there. He's got line of sight to it. See if you can kind of... It's kind of hard to tell on camera, but he can just thread the needle between this building and the hedgerow over to that spot in the middle of those guys. And anything within, I think it's 2 or 3 inches of that point takes a +3 magic attack. Magic attack ranged attacks are a little different from regular ranged attacks in that, like, you don't gain the effects of like intervening cover, moving and shooting, that kind of stuff. So they're more reliable. Like, they're harder for the defender to deal with. But you also only get 1 of them per game, so I'm not feeling too bad for him right now. So anyway, let's start off dealing with the wolf, just because they're faster and I don't want to deal with them. So the wolf is going to have a fight of +1. Yes, I am consulting my little cheat sheet here off camera. So it's going to be Archibald's magic attack of +3 against this doggo. Let's see if we can't just show off the paint job I put on this guy a little bit. He's going to have a fight of +1 against our wizard's shoot of +3. Oh, but our wizard has botched the roll. He rolls a 2, becomes a 5. The wolf has rolled an 11. But let's try against the archer, because that's the next one I'm most worried about. He's going to have a fight. I think I was getting this wrong in a previous scenario. They have a fight of +1, not +0. I don't think it made a huge difference. If it did, I apologize. But yeah, so he's going to have a fight of +0 against Archibald's shoot of +3. And this time it works out for us because the archer has rolled a 12, becomes a 13, where Archibald has rolled a 17, becomes a 20, becomes 25 damage. These things have an armor of 11 and health of 10, so anything 21 or over kills it. So first enemy down, as our heroes have stepped out into the courtyard, gripped with the horrible realization that the forces of the Shadowdeep have found them. Twyin has let out a heroic war cry and charged into the enemy as our grumpy old man has gathered the energies of his anger, extended his torch forward, it sent a blast forward, missing the wolf entirely. The wolf was smart enough to duck out of the way because he was like, oh, big thing of fire, bye, and ducked out of the way, leaving the archer to his doom, Knoll eyes widening as flames engulfed him. But let's see what happened to the fighter. So the fighter's going to have a fight +2 against the shoot of +3. Unfortunately, no. The fighter doesn't even take any damage. He rolled a 19, becomes a 21. Against a 13, becomes a 16. Oh well, so that fireball spell did not do as much as I was hoping. I was kind of hoping that corner would have just been completely dealt with. But oh well, these things happen. With that being said, I think what we're going to do... I think we're just going to have Archibald move up 6 inches into cover behind this hedgerow. And that's going to be him done. Again, we're technically supposed to do first actions for everybody before we do second actions. In this case, it's not going to affect anything. Bryn is just going to dial up a shot at that archer. There's no terrain directly in his line of shot, in the line of his shot. So fortunately, he's just going to be his shoot of +2 against the archer's fight of +1. Let's see how that works out. Okay, it could be worse. Could be worse. The Knoll archer has rolled a 6, becomes a 7. Bryn has rolled an 11, becomes 13, becomes 15 points of damage. But unfortunately, that goes down to 4 points of damage because the Knoll has an armor of 11. So the archer is alive on 6 wounds. But he's taken some damage, so I guess that's something. And Bryn... Oh, God. Just for this turn, I'm going to have him... No, we're going to have him move up. I don't want to get him to get left behind. We need to try to get off this table as quick as we can. So he's just going to move up again, taking cover behind here. As he levels his musket, he sees the fireball goes arcing off towards one corner. He sees an archer trying to line up a shot on Twyin and dials up his musket, letting off a plume of smoke as he fires and rushing through said smoke into the cover of this hedgerow without even waiting to see what he has done. But with that being said, we are all done with our ranger phase. So now we got to run over to our creature phase. Now these guys over here in the corner, I think are going to be the closest ones. So our fighter is just going to move up 9 inches and end up just in front of Twyin, like so. Our wolf has a move of 8, so he gets to move 12 inches, which does get him to right here. And I think Twyin is going to go ahead and snap into him. Because he can do that, and because the wolf has taken 2 actions, he's not going to be able to fight Twyin. This way, Twyin is going to be able to fight the wolf without having to use an action to move first. But with all that being said, now that Twyin has... and I just thought about it. Now that Twyin has snapped into combat, the archer is less likely slightly less likely to hit him. In fact, I'm pretty sure the rules say because he's in combat, he can still be targeted. But I'm personally going to say that he now has that the archer now has the option to target other people. So instead, he's going to target the next closest model, which is Bryn, who is behind cover. So the archer is going to have a shoot of +2 against Bryn, now having a fight of +3 because he normally has a fight of +2. Oh, but it doesn't help. The archer rolls a 19. Oof. Bryn only has an armor of 11, so he's going to take 8 points of damage and go down to 5 wounds because he has 13. But yeah, ouch. Bryn rolls into cover, but the archer is ready for him, just dials up a shot right at him, puts an arrow right into his gut. So yeah, Bryn is going to have some work to do. But with that being said, we're going to hop over to our Terror Wing, who, despite being this giant scary monster, only has a 6-inch move. So he's going to move 9 inches, like so, and just kind of roar at Twyin. In the meantime, I'm just so glad we don't have a second archer to deal with. This wolf is going to move 12 towards Archibald, ending up like so. Null Boy is going to end up just kind of ducking into cover like so. And that brings us to the end of the creature phase, doing a little bit of harm to our boy, but that's all right. We are going to respond in kind by doing harm to them. What we're going to do is we're going to have our knight move up, our warrior priest of Saint Danira. She only has a 7.5 double move because she moves 5 base, and so she's going to end up like so. She literally her double move is barely longer than Bryn's single action move. But oh well. Next we're good because we've got a lot of fight heavy stuff going this way. We're also gonna have Damien make a double move to get out in front of Archibald. End up like so. I think we're gonna have our healer move kind of in behind Bryn. She's gonna activate her healing spell and just get him up to 10 wounds. Let's see if I can find a D10. Here we go. So yeah, he's going to go back up to 10 wounds, just barely hurt. Popping off our healing spell a little earlier than I would have liked, but she does also have a book of healing. It just does less healing. And with that being said, we're going to have Thaddeus the Crow, who has a 13.5-inch move, and he's going to make use of that to get into combat with this wolf and help out our ranger. He's flying in with a mighty caw, ready to show these guys what's good. With that being said, I think we're going to have our thief, Lady Gwyneth, rock up next to, just behind Damien, and kind of just hold her ground. And we're going to have Bruno the dog rocking up. Again, he's just looking a little, he's looking at this wolf saying, hey, what the hell is that thing? And again, as of the results of our earlier scenario, he doesn't just bark in confusion. He literally asks, Gwyneth, what the hell is that? Because he took a lightning bolt to the face, and according to Disney Channel logic, that means he can speak human now. That's how that works, right, guys? But with all that being said, our heroes have kind of moved up to a semi-defensive position behind this hedgerow. Our main hero, Twyin, has engaged the enemy. But with all that, we have reached the end of turn 1, so it is time for the deck of scary things. Let's see what it has in store for us. So that is a red 8. All right, and we will have to turn to the rulebook to see what that means. Okay, so this probably could have happened to us later in the scenario, but oh well. An image of Saint Amelia appears in the courtyard. Pick 2 heroes and return them to their starting health. These figures also receive a +2 fight for the rest of the scenario. So I get to choose which to get this. We do have 2 heroes that are hurt, but they're not necessarily the ones that I want to give a +2 fight to, which is unfortunate. Yeah, I'm going to have to think on that one for a second, and I'll see you guys in the next turn. Okay, guys, so here we are at the start of turn 2 in the Ranger phase. I've made kind of a weird choice with that bonus we got at the end of the last turn. I have 2 people who are injured, but they're not that injured. Both of them are just like 2 wounds down, or I guess Bryn's 3 wounds down from their starting health. They're not that injured, and we have a healer with a healing book that can help them, I'm not really seeing a strong need to buff up their stats. So instead, I'm going to nominate Damien here, our swordsman, and Twyin, our ranger, to get the bonus. They're not going to benefit from the healing, but they are going to get a +2 to their fight. Twyin is already a +5. So he's going to be at a +7 base right now, which is ridiculous. But yeah, so we're going to have him group activate with Thaddeus, because that's the only person who's close enough to group activate. And Twin's first action is going to be to fight the wolf he is in combat with. So again, Twyin is base fight 5, is getting a gang up bonus from Thaddeus for a fight +6, and then because of the image of Saint Emilia appearing in the courtyard, he is now at a fight +8, and he gets that additional +2 for the rest of the game. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about his odds here. Yeah. So this went about as expected. We didn't even really need to roll it. Twyin rolls a 16, becomes a 24, becomes a 29, becomes a super dead wolf. Excuse me, guys. Still getting over a little bit of that sickness, that bronchitis I was dealing with back in November. But yeah, so that is going to be Twin's first action. So as he's rushing forward, bellowing his war cry, the image of Saint Emilia kind of appears over the gatehouse. He is filled with righteous fear, and as he sees an arrow streak past him, here's the grunt of Bryn. He chops down on the approaching wolf and just lobs its head clean off. Then we're going to do Thaddeus's first action, which is not going to be to attack the Terror Wing. No, he's just going to come right over here and lock up the Null Fighter, who then Twyin is going to... actually, Twyin... For his first action, do I want to get in with the... Yeah, we do. We do want to get in with the Null. So he's going to move into the Null. And then Thaddeus, I think, is gonna make his attack. Now Thaddeus has received 30 progression points, so he actually has a fight of +1. With Twyin giving him the gang up bonus, he's got a fight of +2. So he's gonna be dice even against this Null fighter. So I'm gonna risk it. I like Thaddeus's odds. Let's do this. Okay, and it's worked out. Oh wow, it's worked out really well. Oh, I saw when I first rolled the dice, all I saw was the natural 1 from the baddie. But Thaddeus has rolled a natural 20, becomes a 22, becomes a 27 with the crit bonus. And Thaddeus continues his tradition of being the deadliest bird in the world. He literally comes around, pecks at a giant wolf to distract it while Twyin lobs its head off, then sees a Null and just like looks at him, "You're mine." Flies forward over the Null's spear, right into his face, pecking his brain out through his eyes. I love this game, you guys. Thaddeus is the best. Thaddeus is literally the greatest model I have ever owned, and I will fight anyone who disagrees with me. But yes, that is our Ranger phase done, which brings us to the Creature phase, where oddly enough, the Terror Wing is the closest enemy to us. Terror Wing is gonna go ahead and rush into Twyin, and strictly speaking, the rules say you have to make a will check, target number 12, to get into the Terror Wing. So I want Thaddeus to snap in, but he's going to have to make a will check. I think he has like a will of 0, so he's going to need a 12. And he cranks a 13, you guys. Again, Thaddeus is the best animal in the world. Fight me IRL if you disagree. So yeah, Thaddeus manages to get in there against the Terror Wing. And yeah, so now again, this is where we're gonna have to bring up a bit of a house rule that I've used for this game. Technically speaking, now the Terror Wing should be attacking Thaddeus because Thaddeus has the lowest health. But the Terror Wing did charge Twyin. I think again, my logic here is that it feels really weird for the creature to charge one guy, but then because a weaker one showed up, now he's attacking the other guy. So we're going to go ahead and have him finish out his charging attack against Twyin. Now, the Terror Wing very much earns his name because his stats are terrifying. The Terror Wing is a fight +5. So if you guys out there have been, if anyone watching this has been playing through Rangers of Shadowdeep, and you're building a ranger that is maybe less melee inclined, I would not recommend throwing your ranger into combat with the Terror Wing. Not only does he take a will check to even engage, but he's got just really crazy stats. He has like an armor of, let me look at this. He has an armor of 14, 16 wounds, a fight of +5. This guy is like the only model in the game I've encountered thus far that legitimately rivals the stats of a ranger. Like, he's got better armor than a ranger, almost as much health, and he has actually a much better fight than most rangers will have by this point. The only reason Twyin is up to it is because I've played a bunch of scenarios and have been heavily leveling him into combat. So now he's going to take a hit from the Terror Wing. Let's see if he's up to the challenge. So Twyin has lobbed off the head of a wolf, looks over as his bird companion pecks a gnoll to death, looks over just in time to see the Terror Wing surging towards him, prepares his sword and shield to resist the attacker, growling his defiance. So let's see it. It's going to be Twin's fight +8 again against the Terror Wing's fight +5. Okay, oh dear. So it's worked out well. It's worked out shockingly well. I think, guys, I haven't done the math, but I think I may have just one-shot the Terror Wing in its own turn, because the Terror Wing has rolled a 6, which becomes an 11. Twyin has rolled a 19. Guys, I don't know how I'm rolling such hot dice, but yeah, I have no words for you. So Twyin has rolled a 19, +8 becomes a 27, but then we apply the crit bonus, which is another +5 damage. He's just done 32 damage. Anything 30 or more kills the Terror Wing, because it has an armor of 14 and 16 wounds, for a total one-turn soak of 30 damage. Twyin just did 32. Rip. Yeetus deletus, this man is no more. Twyin is the coolest motherfucker on the face of the earth, you guys. Wow, I was expecting that to be a lot harder than it ended up being. Wow, that's a little bit of an anticlimax, if I'm being honest. That this Terror Wing was over there looking all menacing, because dare I say, if you don't mind the quick cut, this Terror Wing, I think I did a pretty good job on his paint scheme. He's looking pretty scary. And he died in one shot like a chump. He literally, I have had gnoll fighters give me more trouble than the Terror Wing just did. What even is this game, you guys? I don't understand. But okay, that's a thing that happened. Yeah, I guess moving on, I suppose? Question mark? So yes, just to narrate that a little bit, Twyin has braced his shield and sword, waiting for the approach of the Terror Wing, who swoops in with a mighty screech, deafening those around it. As it crashes down on Twin's shield, its claws ringing off the metal, leaving massive dents in his shield, threatening to break through, and then he thrusts his keen sword, well maintained, freshly sharpened, right up into the bulk of this hulking mass of creature. His blade, somehow, perhaps with the guidance of Saint Amelia, diving straight into the creature's heart, right into the exact place that would lay it low. The creature lets out a keening shout as it feels its lifeblood drain away, and collapses to the floor with a mighty thud. The creatures around it look on in shock and horror as their mighty champion of the Shadowdeep is laid low. But with all that being said, our wolf here is just going to spend one action to get in on Damien. Gwyneth isn't within I don't think she's within an inch. Nope. So she can't snap in. No one can. And so Damien is just going to be on his own. Fortunately, Damien has also received the blessings of Saint Amelia, so as he has rushed forward, he sees Archibald send a fireball off into a corner, thinks, oh god, there's enemies coming from that corner. I better rush to help, and kind of rushes past his elderly companion, looking to shield his friend. And as he does so, he rounds the corner just in time for a wolf to leap at his face, but he is inspired by the glow of Saint Emilia, raises his shield in defense. So the wolf is going to have a fight of +1, and Damien with the +2 we got from turn 1 is going to have a fight of +5. So let's see how this goes. Oh dear. So the wolf still wins. Damien rolls a 5, becomes a 10. The wolf rolls at 12, becomes a 13. Damien takes 1 point of damage and goes down to 12. That was unexpected. Oh dear. So let's see if we can't find a 12. Yeah, so Damien goes down to 12 wounds. But we literally gave you the blessing of a saint. What happened? Twyin is over here one-shotting terror wings, and you're struggling with a dog. I need better companions. Anyways, yeah, our Gnoll fighter is just gonna kind of do the same. He's got his double move will just barely get him into combat with Damien. So that's something we're gonna have to deal with. Yeah. So now, one thing I probably should have mentioned is that we have to assign one character to be carrying the decanter. I think it's only fitting that Eliza, the actual healer from the convent, that she be the one carrying the decanter. I don't know, that just seems appropriate to me. But yeah, so we're gonna go into the companion phase now, and we're gonna start off with Bruno, the dog, kind of rushing around to get into base contact with the wolf. He already has a fight of +1 against the wolf's fight of +1, so let's see if Bruno, the warhound, can take on a savage wolf of the Shadowdeep. He sees Damien lift up his shield, but the wolf manages to kind of lay the edge of one of his fangs into Damien's shoulder, and Bruno yells out, "Hey, back off my homie!" and runs in to help. Okay, and it has worked out. Our animal companions are absolutely killing it today, guys. Maybe I should get rid of my human companions and just have nothing but animal companions. Oh, that does remind me, we forgot to do the Gnoll Archer. We'll deal with that in a second. Okay, so Bruno has rolled an 18, becomes a 19. The wolf rolled a natural 1, so we don't really need to worry about him. Wolves have an armor of 10 and a health of 6, so yeah, Bruno has literally seen this dog kind of biting on the shoulder of Damien, said, "Nah, we're not doing that today. I don't think you know whose house this is. This is my backyard. This is where I bury my bones and take my walkies. You will not be biting my friends here today." Leapt in, sinks his teeth into the wolf's throat, and absolutely tears the throat of the wolf out, leaving his snout caked in blood as he howls his bloody vengeance to the Shadowdeep. Finally, reclaiming some dignity and punishment against those who killed his former masters. But with that being said, Bruno is all done, but we do need to go back and correct the archer, who is going to be dialing up a shot at Thaddeus as the closest friendly companion. Hopefully Thaddeus can duck, dodge, dip, dive, and dodge. So the Gnoll Archer is going to have a shoot of +2. Thaddeus only has a fight of +1, so let's see how this works out. Unfortunately, Thaddeus does take a hit, so he has rolled a 2, becomes a 3. The Archer has rolled an 11, becomes a 13. However, Thaddeus, all raptors have an armor of 14. I don't know why, but maybe because they start with only 1 hit point. But yeah, so he has an armor of 14. So this arrow comes arcing in but I like to think that the flapping of Thaddeus's wings just kind of swats the arrow aside, like, no. I just killed an armored Gnoll fighter and watched a terror wing get smacked down. You're not shooting me. That's not what we're doing. But yes, so Thaddeus is fine. It's starting to look like maybe wiping out the enemy is going to be a valid option. Not how I thought this scenario was going to go, guys. I figured I was going to be booking it for one of the exits. But we are going to have Lady Gwyneth pop into combat with the Gnoll. Now, the last time she tried to do combat, it didn't end well. but maybe she can do a little bit better. So she's gonna be fight +1, thanks to Damien. The Gnoll's fight +2. So let's see what she can do here, because rogues are really more of utility characters. And unfortunately, Gwyneth no longer has her bone sword, so she's just using a dagger, which does not have great damage. Oh, and Gwyneth's bad luck continues. The Gnoll has rolled a 16. She has an armor of 11, so she takes 5 points of damage down to 4 health. Suddenly wishing I had, healed her up. So yeah, here we have her over on 4 wounds. Yeah, that's unfortunate. But Damien, now is going to be Damien's turn to activate. Let's see if he can even things out. So he's, with Gwyneth backing up, he's now going to be a fight +6 against the Gnoll's fight +2. So let's see what he can do. Okay, the Gnoll has rolled another 1, but so has Damien. Oh, Damien. You're such a disappointment. You know what? We're going to use our once per game Hand of Fate reroll to try and fix this. Come on. Oh, God. And now it's even worse because I've used it up, and he rolls a 3, which becomes a 9, which isn't even enough to hurt the Gnoll. But he does at least win the combat, so he's just going to force the Gnoll back a bit, which leaves him open to Archibald hitting him with a shooting attack. So yeah, Damien is going to have his one action be fighting, and then he's just going to burn his second action. Actually, do we want to do that? Yeah, let's go ahead and try it. So yeah, we're going to have Damien force the Gnoll back, and we're going to have Archibald try to blast this thing with a +5 shooting attack from his arcane bolt. He sees this Gnoll come rushing out of the inferno of his fireball, crushing down behind the wolf, leaping at his friends, slashing open Gwyneth's side as she comes rushing and trying to help Damien. You know, Damien has just barely forced the wolf off and shield bashed this Gnoll to the side as the Gnoll whips his blade around and gashes open Gwyneth's side. Archibald, seeing this, is overcome with even more grandfatherly anger as he extends his hand and eldritch energies dance between his fingers, letting out an arcane bolt. Okay, and that did it. So the Gnoll's fight +2 got him to a 14, which becomes a 16, but Archibald, with his, I think it's a +5 or maybe a +4. Either way, well, actually, I guess it will kind of matter. I'm gonna have to look it up in a second, guys. Archibald has rolled a 14, which will either become a 19 and not kill the Gnoll, or become a 20, which then would kill the Gnoll. Because a Gnoll has an armor of 11, 10 wounds, and 19 would leave him alive on 2 wounds. So yeah, I'm gonna have to check it in a second if that spelled is a +4 or a +5. But in the meantime, we do have other heroes that we can finish out. So I'm just gonna finish out the turn and then I'll check that out. So Bryn is just gonna spend his first action reloading his crossbow, or quote-unquote crossbow, and level his musket again at the Gnoll, shooting at his friends, and let off another shoot +2 attack against the Gnoll's fight +1. Come on, buddy. So he rolls a 7 this time. He has won the fight. The Gnoll rolled a 5, but 7 becomes a 9. Even with a +2 damage, it becomes exactly an 11, which is what the Gnoll's armor is. So he does no damage. Bryn, what the hell? You've actually been flirting with being useful this mission. What are you doing? But yeah, those are both of his actions. We're not even going to bother healing him. He's only taking a little bit of damage. And then we're just going to have the Knight of Saint Denira, that's what it was, is going to rush forward her 7.5. And then that is going to get us to the end of the turn, so we're going to go to the deck of scary things real quick, where we have drawn a red 5, and I will look up what that says in just a second. Okay, it's not so bad. Red 5 just says place a wolf in front of a random exit, so I will have to roll that up in just a second, and we'll get that wolf placed. But just a quick note, I did look up the spell real quick, and it turns out that Magic Bolt is a +5 shooting attack, which means Archibald did in fact blast the head off of that Gnoll. So as Damien shoulder checked this Gnoll away from him, Archibald extends his hand, sends an eldritch bolt of lightning extending from his hands, blasting the head off of this Gnoll fighter. And yeah, so we're just going to have a Gnoll Archer and a Wolf on the board. But with that being said, I will see you guys in the next turn. Okay, here we are in turn 3, and things looking very good for our companions. We're still mostly occupying this defensive position behind the hedgerow, but our kind of flanking maneuver with Twyin and the Knight of St. Deneira, we have cleared the vast majority of the threat from the table. We have our wolf, who has emerged from the smoldering, charred corner of the courtyard. But with that being said, we're going to hop right into the Ranger phase, where Twyin is going to activate with both of his companions, with the Knight of St. Deneira and Thaddeus. Twyin is just going to rush forward his 10.5 inches. It's not going to quite get him to the Gnoll Archer. Our Knight of St. Deneira is going to rush up her 7.5 inches. Also not quite making it. And then Thaddeus, not wanting to get shot again, is just kind of squawking his outrage at being shot at, and is just gonna kind of hover behind his much better armored friend. With that being said, it is time for the creature phase, which means our archer is now going to dial up a shot at Twyin. Shoot +2 against fight +7 right now with the bonus. Yeah, and so the Gnoll has rolled a 1. Twyin rolled a 17, which becomes something ridiculous. Literally 17 is the lowest he's rolled so far. Don't even know what to tell you guys. I'm pretty sure he's rolled a natural 20, a 19, and a 17. So yeah, the archer's first action is to shoot. I can't really justify moving him in. Because why would he do that? But our wolf, seeing Bruno here gnawing on the corpse of one of its packmates, is going to rush forward 12 inches, ending up all the way by the corner of the house. These wolves move quick. They are the fast attack movers of this Shadowdeep force coming to retake the convent. But now we find ourselves in the companion phase, where our heroic swordsman Damien is just going to double action, or actually he's just going to single action move like this, ending up right in front of the wolf, while Lady Gwyneth is going to chuck her throwing knife. She is a shoot of +1 against a fight of +1. See if she can't take out a wolf with a throwing knife. Redeem herself a little bit. So I don't think she'll quite kill it, but she has rolled an 11. With a +1 makes it a 12. Wolves have an armor of 10. So the wolf does take damage. It's going to take 2 points of damage, going down to 4 wounds. So as the wolf lets out a howl and kind of sprints by the charred remains of a Gnoll Archer, heading right for Bruno, Damien sees this creature coming and says, "No, faithful friend," and rushes forward, shield at the ready. Gwyneth, kind of clutching at her side, is like, "Oh man, Damien, you didn't do so well against the last wolf." Kind of lets out a sigh at this fool kind of trying too hard to be noble. Pulls out her throwing knife, chucks it at the wolf, landing firmly in the side of the creature as it lets out a howl of pain. With that being said, Bruno is going to be the bestest boy. Turn around and see Damien squaring off with yet another wolf. Bruno's just going to say, "Dude, you're not good at this." Rush forward to deal with the wolf himself. He's going to be fight +1 against fight +1. Let's see if Bruno can do this. He can. Bruno is best boy. So our wolf has rolled a 14, becomes a 15. Bruno has rolled a 17, becomes an 18, becomes a dead wolf. Takes 8 points of damage and dies. So Bruno has now single-handedly killed, well, not quite single-handedly, but mostly single-handedly killed a pair of wolves. This is the toughest dog y'all have ever met. I'm sorry if I'm getting a little too rambunctious about praising my animal companions, but they're just doing so good. My bird is killing gnolls. My dog is devouring wolves like the goodest boy I always knew he was. I'm very proud of them. Now that the way is more or less clear, Archibald is just going to move up 9 inches, rushing past the body of this dead wolf as Bruno is just stood there gnawing on the throat of this wolf, just growling at it. Eliza here is just going to kind of move up 4 and another 5 to keep up right behind Damien. Bryn is going to reload his musket, but then he's just going to move up 7 inches. Like so. And then, yeah, that brings us to the end of the companion phase, which means it's time for the deck of scary things. What does it have in store for us? A red 4. Okay. Let's find out what that has in store. Actually, no, I don't even need to check. That's just place another wolf in front of a random exit. So we're going to randomize this 1, 2, 3. And we're just going to figure this out. 1. So the next wolf will be coming in over here. So just, hey, look at that. Another wolf lets out a howl and is coming up behind the archer. But that being said, right now, these 2 exits are wide open, and the majority of our companions have a free line to get the hell out of here. We'll just have to see how that works out. But I will see you guys at the start of the next turn. All right, guys, here we are at the start of turn 4. Things looking real good for the party. We are just chewing through the monstrous forces of the Shadowdeep. Our heroes have finally come out from hiding behind the hedgerow, making for that corner, while we've kind of blasted through the gnolls and wolves that came pouring out of there. But we have to start in the ranger phase. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have Twyin take his first action, moving in with this archer. Thaddeus is going to take his first action, moving in against... Ooh. We're actually not going to have him moving because he'll get close enough that it'll drag the wolf in, and I don't really want that. The Knight of St. Danira, however, is going to move into base contact with the archer, drawing in the wolf, who will snap to her. Because the rules of this game specifically say enemies must snap into combat if possible. So I actually don't have a choice there, guys. But yeah, so that's actually her first action. So Thaddeus is going to take his second action to fly around, get into base with just the gnoll archer. And Twyin is going to make an attack action against the archer. So the archer is a fight of +1. Twyin is going to be a fight +8. He's only getting a +1 gang up bonus because the Knight of St. Danira isn't doing that just because she is currently engaged by another creature, so she will not be offering a gang up bonus. Thaddeus is, though. So Twyin is already fight +7 with the bonus from St. Emilia, becomes a fight +8 with the gang up. So he's rolled an 8. The gnoll gets a total of a 5, the Twyin has rolled a 3 with a +8 becomes an 11. Yeah, which is not going to be enough. He wins the fight, but he just doesn't do any damage. He does exactly enough damage for the armor to soak it. But with that being said, we're going to move on. We're going to have the Knight of St. Danira make an attack against this newly arrived wolf. And she's going to just... let's see, what is she going to do? She's going to attack, right. She's got a fight of +4 against the wolf's fight of +1. Oh dear, she is not, apparently she is not one for fighting animals. She gets bonuses against the undead, but I guess she's just not as fervent about fighting wolves. She's like, oh, but doggo. The doggo has rolled a total of 11. She has an armor of 13, so she's just fine. So no damage done to either party, and everyone just sort of stands there. However, now we are in the creature phase. The archer is going to be fighting Thaddeus, with the archer having a fight +1, Thaddeus getting the gang up from Twyin and having a fight +2. So let's see what he can do. Okay, so it comes out to be a tie score. Unfortunately, that means they both take damage. So Thaddeus is immediately removed from play, because he only has 2 wounds and definitely took more than 2 damage there. So just to remind you guys, the archer has a fight of +1, so his 18 becomes a 19. Thaddeus had a fight of +2, his 17 also becomes a 19. And in an event of a tie, both sides take damage. So Thaddeus is removed. Let's roll on the table to see what happened. He rolls a 12 on the out of action table, so he's going to be just fine. He's going to roll a full recovery. But he is removed, so he's only going to get 1 progression point for this scenario, unfortunately. But the archer has 11 health, takes 8 points of damage. He only has 6 left, and immediately dies. So Twyin, just to be clear, Twyin, who one-shot a terror wing over here by the barricade, then comes charging across here, sword held at the ready, the gnoll cowering in fear before his might, bouncing an arrow off his shield. Twyin swings in and just like impacts the gnoll's bow, and is just kind of stood there awkwardly like, oh, well, this is embarrassing. Meanwhile, Thaddeus comes in there sighing in exasperation, flying in to deal with this gnoll, landing his beak right in the gnoll's throat, draining it, causing it to bleed to death. But the gnoll, as it's dying, flails around, happens to get in a lucky hit with his arm and smacking Thaddeus to the ground. Twyin quickly scooping him up and placing in his satchel. But now we have to deal with the wolf attacking back at the Knight of St. Danira. So round 2, it is going to be fight +4 against fight +1. Okay, and so the knight's first swing of her hammer kind of went wide over the doggo as it kind of ducked down. But this time the doggo has rolled a 2, becomes a 3, whereas Danira, or the Knight of St. Danira, has rolled a 17, becomes a 21, becomes a 26, becomes a splatted doggo. So yeah, she came charging in with her cold fury glaring out from her visor, swinging her hammer as the dog ducks under it, only to realize that it was a feint, that the Knight of St. Danira intentionally didn't intentionally, but after Danira missed the first attack, swiftly brings her hammer around in a tidy little spin. The wolf, thinking her open to attack, rushes forward, only in time to realize that the hammer is coming back around in a reverse swing, bashing down on its head, killing it instantly. And that is actually the last of our bad guys. So the creature phase somehow saw the creatures delete themselves from the table. Going into the companion phase, Bryn is just going to rush forward 10.5 inches, keeping up with our boys. And the rest of our companions over here are just going to rush for the exit. We're going to have Archibald moving up 9 inches. Bruno doing much the same. Damien keeping up. Eliza staying right behind him. Gwyneth moving up 10.5 inches. Gaining a little ground on Eliza. Just got to remember to keep our wound markers with our guys. And that brings us to the end of turn 4. We're now halfway through this scenario, and it's looking pretty good. It's looking like we're going to get out of here with minimal trouble. And we've drawn a red 2, and we're going to have to find out what the Deck of Scary Things means for us now. All right, red 2 says that if the Terror Wing is on the table, make a +5 elemental magic attack against a random hero. If the Terror Wing has been killed, ignore this card. Okay, apparently Twyin is the hero we needed. Him one-shotting this terror, because wow, a +5 magic attack against a random hero, that's actually really scary, guys. Like, I need y'all to understand, a +5 magic attack could very easily one-tap most of our heroes. Like, realistically, like, other than Twyin, most of these guys, if I rolled even average on a +5 magic attack, they die. So, wow, okay. Twyin killing the Terror Wing really helped us. Okay, with that being said, the Terror Wing will not be launching magic attacks at us. And with all that being said, that's the end of turn 4. I will see you guys in turn 5. Alright guys, here we are in turn 5, and it's going to be a real quick one. We're going to go ahead and end this scenario. I'm not really looking to farm any XP from any more enemies that might show up. Ranger phase, we just group activate with our heroes. They all have enough movement to get out through this exit. So apparently, Twyin, the Knight of St. Danira, and Bryn are going to rush out through the chapel, kind of walking over the corpses of the ghouls they slaughtered earlier. Danira, who gets bonuses against undead, is just going to be looking at us like, what the fuck, guys? I missed out. And then creature phase, everything's dead. And then companion phase, all of these guys have enough movement to make it out through the hole in the convent wall, so they're just going to rush out into the outside, finding only scattered and surprised enemies, trying to form the beginnings of an assault force, but seeing our heroic figures come charging out, the forces of the Shadowdeep scatter before them. Our heroes will all reunite outside, and I'll see you guys in the outro. Okay guys, one quick thing to note before we head to the outro. In the aftermath section of the scenario, it says, if a hero holding the decanter managed to escape the table or survive to the end, see note 851. We have successfully survived. We did get the decanter off the table, so let's go see what note 851 has for us. Okay, note 851. Having escaped the convent with your prize, you spent the next week dodging search parties and moving as quickly as possible towards home. Thankfully, it felt as though the saint herself was watching over you. Less than a week later, you made it back to the shattered stairs. The long ascent was agonizing as you pushed your battered and bruised body up the last stretch. But finally, you broke through the black clouds and breathed the fresh air again. A few days later, you reported back to your captains and turned over the decanter. That night, a small celebration was held in the camp in your honor. The decanter would be sent back to Talus to one of the great hospitals there, where it would prove a blessed relief to many sufferers. Having such a powerful artifact is sure to aid in the fight against the Shadowdeep. Gain 150 XP, each of your companions gains 2 progression points. Mission ends here. Okay, so most of our companions are gonna be getting 4 progression points. 2 for the scenario, 2 for getting the decanter. Twyin, even before we add up the enemies, has gained 250 XP. He's probably going to level up twice. So that's something. And with all that being said, yeah, we're going to tally up some XP. We're going to see where things land, and I will see you guys in the outro. Okay, and there we have it. That is scenario I in the bag. We have finished the Burning Light mission pack. We have finished the entire core rulebook, guys. Did not imagine that it would be this much of a slog to get through, but I say slog. I've been having a blast the entire time, but I just did not remember this book being so jam-packed with content. But with all that being said, this scenario went way easier than I thought it would. I'm not going to call it quite a letdown because I'm pumped that we did so well, but yeah, I really thought that Terror Wing was going to be more of an issue than he ended up being, but that's what happens with dice games. Sometimes you roll a 19. Yeah, that's just what happens, guys. But yeah, so we rolled some hot dice, we killed some creatures, we got off of that board in about half the time we had available to us. Yeah, it was supposed to be an 8 scenario game. We got off easily in turn 5. So yeah, and the weird thing is, part of me thought, well, maybe we should have played it on challenge mode. All that would have done is added like 2 more null fighters. I don't know how much more that would have done. Maybe if we'd also upgraded the wolves to dire wolves, then maybe it would have been a bit more of a challenge, but anyway. Our heroes have successfully escaped the convent with the decanter of St. Emilia, and I turned out being right about the leveling up. It turns out that between the stored up XP that we only got like from various things we found that count as 10 XP or 15 XP when the mission ends, between all of those things we had found and between the 100 XP for finding the decanter, the 150 for successfully ending the mission with the decanter, yeah, Twyin leveled up twice, and he's actually not that far off from a 3rd level up. He's currently level 11, within striking distance of level 12. So, that actually kind of answers what mission we need to do next. We need to go ahead and do the Ghost Stone mission pack, because you're supposed to do that between levels 5 and 10. So we need to just go ahead and do that now before Twyin gets well and truly overpowered. But yeah, I don't really know what to say other than that. The scenario went really well. The mission went really well. No one died. Well, at least none of the good guys died. Lots of monsters died. But with all that being said, I've had an absolute blast playing through this one. Just a quick channel note for those of you who have even made it this far in the video. There's not going to be any videos for like the next 2 weeks, because at time of filming, we're about a week away from Christmas. I'm just not going to have time to film over the holidays. But we'll be back in the new year, and we'll see what 2024 has in store for us. Until then, please, by all means, do remember to hit the like button. Maybe consider subscribing if you've enjoyed this. We're going to have new videos every Friday, after the holidays. But other than that, I would love to see you guys down in the comments section. Let me know what you thought of the scenario, what you thought of the mission pack. Are you guys enjoying Rangers of Shadowdeep? But yes, do let me know what you think in the comments. I would love to see you down there. I would love to see you over on some of our other videos. But in the meantime, happy wargaming.
Onward to glory!